Welcome back, folks. In this video, we will talk about how to keep your project organized. As you can see here, we have quite a few items. Not too many, but the list is growing. And as the list is growing, it will become harder to find something that we actually need. So let's keep it organized. So here we have global objects and scene objects. Scene objects are objects that can be used only in this specific scene. If you want to use the same object in every single scene, like your coins, your environment, or your main character, you'll have to make them a global object, or you'll have to add the same item for every single scene. So let's make our main character a global character. So in your scene objects, find your main character, right click on it, and choose Set as Global Object. Press OK. Next, we are going to do the same thing with the gold coins. We will do the same thing with collected coins. And we will do the same thing with health points. Now, if we were to go to a different scene, like for example, Lost, and open global objects, we can see that these objects are there. Okay. Now, next step is to actually keep it organized. We can do that by creating folders. Let's start with the scene object. Right click on it and choose Add a folder. Let's call it Environment. And in this folder, we'll keep everything environment related, such as our green grass, our platforms, and our wall. We can also do the background. As you can see here, it's already getting much cleaner. Let's add another folder. And we call it Traps. And we will move rock into the folder. And we'll do another folder called Enemies. And we will move our enemy into the folder. Let's do the same thing here in global objects. We're going to add a folder and call it UI, User Interface. There we're going to have collected coins and health points. We'll create another folder and call it Collectibles. And we're going to move gold coin in there. And let's create another folder and we're going to call it Characters. And in this folder, we will keep all our main characters. So as you can see here, this looks way better. Another way of organizing things is to actually organize our code. We were already organizing from the very beginning, so it looks pretty good. And if we were to minimize it, as you can see here, it looks pretty good. You can find everything that you need. You can go a step further and maybe add a comment. For example, here, you're going to add a comment and say, setting up music. You go over here and you can say, setting up coins. Additionally, if you have some kind of settings specific to your scene, it's often better to create a new event group, and we call it setting up the scene. Let's select it, add a new sub-event, and press Shift and select these two lines, since this is pertaining to the entire scene, and move it to setting up the scene. As you can see here, this looks already better. To go a step further, you can create what it's called an external event. For example, we want to play music in every single scene that we have. Maybe we want to collect coins in every single scene that we have. We can either duplicate this code for every scene, or we can just write this code in a single place and then reference that single place. So let's create an external event, and we call it game setup. Let's open it up. Let's choose a scene. Doesn't really matter, but preferably you will choose a scene that already has all these events. Let's say level 1. Choose. Let's add event. Let's go back to level 1 events. Let's select setting up the scene. Control C. Go back to game setup. Click on the first line. Control V. And here we go. Now let's go back to the level 1 events. We no longer need this, so we can just delete it. Or if you want to test it, make sure that our game setup works, you can just disable this. Select it and press D delta on your keyboard. And as you can see here, it temporarily disables it. Now what we need to do is we need to create a new event. We'll drag it all the way up top. We're gonna select it, click on a plus, and we're gonna choose link external events. And here we're gonna choose game setup. So what it's gonna do now is when you launch the scene, it will include all the events from game setup. In our situation is playing the sound. So let's go to level 1. We already disabled the scene settings for the sound. However, we are referencing that sound from game setup sheet. So when we click preview, we shall still hear the sound, the music. And as you can hear, the music is playing. So let's close this. Let's clean this up a little bit more. We're going to have coins. By the way, let's delete this. We are going to have coins in every single level. So let's set up a new external event called collecting. We're going to choose a scene, level 1, choose. We're going to add a new event. We're going to go back to level 1. We're going to go to collecting coins, Control C. Go back to collecting, Control V. Go back to level 1. Select plus, link external events, and choose collecting. Now let's disable this by clicking D on your keyboard. Okay, let's preview. And it's still working. Let's close this. So now we know this is working, so we can just delete this. As you can see here, our code looks much cleaner now. You may want to do that same thing for the enemy, for the traps, or even end of the game. Alrighty folks, this is all for this video. See you next one.